Most creators I know who are really like look extroverted online are very introverted in person. The creator mode is terrible for life at least. Music has saved me so many times from like thoughts or whatever, and music has also uplifted me in so many ways. I do not want to chase money, and I do not want to chase validation.
Welcome to Take a Pause with me, Varun Duggi. Being a creator involves many things, but beyond the creation, what it also involves is how it affects your mind, how it affects your mindset, how it makes you think about everything from relationships, friendships, to even what the actual creation process is for. Are you creating art, or are you doing something that's a lot more transactional? And all these questions pop into every creator's minds. To discuss this and a whole lot more, I have Dev Raiyani on the show today. He's one of those creators I love to follow because of the genuine authenticity of his content and just the way it kind of portrays who he is to the world. But before we get into my chat with him, I wanted to hit subscribe and smash that bell icon. We'll see you right after this, my chat with Dev. Hey Dev, welcome to the show. I
Thank you
think
for
we've been
having
talking
me.
about doing this. We've been talking about doing this for a while now, haven't we? We've been talking about
For a
just gently
yeah,
getting on a
for a
pod and having a chat.
very long time. Yeah, finally
Uh,
we're here.
yeah, and the interesting part is I think we live in a time and for have been for a while where you meet people because you end up interacting with them online. You
Hmm.
and I have met on two live streams. Uh,
Yeah,
one on YouTube, no, one on YouTube and
one
LinkedIn, and the other one was on Instagram.
Instagram.
Uh, Never met in person, but I
Never.
think across those we've had some really like extended conversations about a lot of things.
I've had
Um,
more interesting conversations with you than I have with people who I actually meet in real life.
that is, I will take that as a compliment in general.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say that, right? And I often think about this is that do we actually have a lot more interesting conversations online than we do when we're in person? Does that take away the awkwardness? Do you feel?
Yeah, for sure, I guess. It's like we've got so adapted like during lockdown to like being an online presence that when we interact with other creators or other people who have been doing this, it's a comfort space more than like most creators I know who are really like look extroverted online
Hmm.
are very introverted in person.
Yeah.
So when in person, it obviously adds another layer of body language and everything. And here you can just do whatever you want. Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
yeah, because I was telling someone the other day, I said that for the generally awkward person, just like what you were saying, the internet's a great way to take away some of the social anxiety that comes with actually being out there. Like I would never be a person who'd get on stage till I think a couple
Hmm.
of years ago because I was so like generally paranoid about someone like what's everyone going to think? Am I going to like fall flat on my face? Have fallen flat on my face when I was in second standard. So hence since then on stage I always worry about getting onto it, but suddenly the internet made it simpler. It's a little easier unless you look at the comments, I guess.
It's like an audience but no faces.
Hmm.
Like you don't have to see them
Yeah.
or like see how they react, but that comments and everything is like their reaction. So
Yeah.
most people tend to only focus on that and it screws with their mind. But otherwise, like what I do is just like a stage with no audience. I don't even look at the comments at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just post and then I'm good. Next one. So yeah, it's a good space.
That's it. Okay. Now I got to pick on that one, right?
Hmm.
Because the whole thing about comments and if you talk to anybody who tells you this is how you should do social media, this is how you should do YouTube or Instagram or any of these, said, oh, you got to engage in the comments, you got to drive interactions there and do everything else. Um, and while there are a lot of people who actually are positive, add value, etc. over there, there is also the negativity. Why do you create content?
Because it's fun. As I've told you before, I started making content to make friends like YouTube, but then I
Hmm.
just loved making the process of making it so much. Most people tend to focus on what comes after you make it and post it, but
Mm.
like I'm actually in love with the process of making it, and the posting part after I don't really care about.
Yeah.
It's just like it's art in some sort. It's like
Yeah.
the process. Most artists love making it and
Yeah.
creating something that from scratch. So yeah, I just love that entire part. And there
Yeah.
are people who like tend to see go to comments for criticism, go to that, and everyone claims to know knowledge about how to become like happy or like a successful person online,
Yeah.
but everyone's doing their own thing. This whole thing is so polar opposite. Like people can get famous for such different things,
Mm.
that there's no blueprint for it. Everyone's just doing their own thing. You shouldn't follow what someone else is saying, because it might have worked for them, but it mostly won't work for you.
Mm. And I love the fact that you said art, right? And because if you talk about the artists today, the internet is almost a way for you to kind of put your art out there, find someone, and a to actually put create something, put it out there is by itself a privilege. Like I said, the process of
Yeah.
creation. I totally get what you mean because
Yeah.
oftentimes when I'm sitting in front of a mic, if it's just me, there's no camera on, it's one of those things I enjoy the most, like literally just talking to the mic, feels super intimate.
Hmm.
I've come to have that relationship with the phone camera now. The more I've started to create, and I create reels generally from like, okay, I just want to
Hmm.
talk about something I've learned. I'm super excited about it. Let me just put it out there as long as it gives value, but I don't necessarily want to get into, oh, I know the answer to things. Like, I mean, once you say I know the answer, that's a tricky slope, or oh,
Yeah.
I'm a world authority in this. But you're going and saying, oh, I'm super curious about something. I think with art and artists, curiosity is one of the most core things. Right? If you're curious about something, it kind of takes you down this rabbit hole, and you kind of go through all those spaces. Um, but at some point, the worry is the more you put stuff online, the more at some point you have a need for validation. Have you ever struggled
At
with
all
that? Like,
points. Yeah. Yeah, for
ever struggled
sure.
with it?
I still struggle with it. That yeah, like I've lowered it down quite a lot, but it's obviously a thing that so many people are perceiving you. You obviously want to know the reaction to it.
Yeah.
So, and some of the times it's bad. So that's what people get through. But I've learned to focus on when it's good and
Yeah.
make that my entire thing.
Yeah.
But that also can get a problem, that if it's only good all the time and then it gets to your head and then you think you're like the king of the world, and
Hmm.
it's just a whole cycle of validation constantly. And like for me, like my age, when I started getting such large amounts of validation, and my
Hmm.
mom told me like this is not going to be forever. Learn to like just be happy with your own validation. That's
Yeah.
like the main thing that I do. Like I love my work, and that's like the top priority. Nothing else should matter. And if I don't like it, I delete it. Like I've deleted I think 50 reels of mine within 10 minutes of posting it, because i
Yeah.
i just find it like, oh, this is just weird. So
Yeah.
it's an entire thing that people go through, but you have to learn to like make yourself the priority in the whole situation when you're putting yourself in this position.
I think that's a fabulous piece of advice. You know, a question I love to ask on this show is what's the best piece of advice you got? But I feel that's actually I mean, I feel the more you are told from a certain age that don't seek validation from the world, because, you always told that I was that kid who would, whenever people came home, would want to kind of change costumes, come dance in front of everybody in different things. So I would get validation from whoever came to my house, even if it was a delivery guy when I was younger.
Mhm.
So I grew up with
Yeah.
that, and at some point, um, it took me years to kind of learn that I need to find a way to get this validation for myself. But I think the advice you got is just kind of spot on, right? You just got to find it within yourself. Um, does
Yeah.
that make you more secure though as a person? Do you feel that that makes you little less worried about, okay, this is what someone's going to think, this is what someone's going to say. Um, I don't have to be a people pleaser. I just need to kind of be secure with what I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. I was a people pleaser, like to the highest extent. I used to only do things for other people, and if I couldn't make them happy, it used to like destroy me as a
Hmm.
person. But I've right now I'm like really secure with myself, and I still have a lot of work to do because I am quite an overthinker for the people I
Hmm.
care about,
Hmm.
and I have to learn to detach from that at least more, because I care about them too much. and it often like hinders the relationship with both in both ways. But with people in general, I don't care. Like it's just blatantly, I don't care what they say. If it's good, wow, all right, that's amazing. Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. And if it's bad, okay, fine. I don't really doesn't really get to me anymore at all.
How did you make that switch? How did you make that switch in your head? I mean, was that conscious? Was that something you worked on? How did that happen?
I didn't work on it actively because when I tend to work on things actively, it mostly fails.
Hmm.
But it's just been so long since I've been like like when I created the YouTube channel, most of it was like just backlash on what the hell are you doing? This is weird.
And you were 13 at
So
that
I
time.
think from the age of yeah, from the age of 13 itself, I've got so much negative energy that I've just learned to like filter it out and be happy. Like subconsciously, I didn't even try at all. It just happened that there was so much over the years where it just didn't get to me anymore.
And and I feel there's a line there, right? There is a line to say that I will stop um, letting someone else from the whatever someone says from the outside affect me. Um, and at some point you graduate from okay, I'm going to block that off to saying I'm secure. I feel the
Hmm.
problem happens many times in a lot of our lives is we get stuck in that I will try not to let what people are saying affect me, and it takes you
Hmm.
longer to get to feeling more secure. And I feel that
Yeah,
middle ground's
for sure.
tricky as well because then you're just numbing yourself. And
Yeah.
I've done that in the past, and it's always been one of those things where you kind of feel like everything's kind of closed up. Um, like I know I went through that during the lockdown at a certain point. I'm not going to let what's happening in the world affect me. I will just be in this bubble I've created. And it
Yeah.
takes time to kind of get out of that bubble to
Hmm.
really feel okay. How do you meet a friend after that? How do you let what someone says um,
Yeah.
either just not bounce off you or like not go straight in? Um, and I'm bringing this up because I feel in many ways, and I think for for someone like me who went from the analog world when I grew up, I didn't have the internet when I was I think for the first like whatever 10 plus years of my life,
Yeah.
and then I had like the old school dial up to eventually getting the internet. I've been through
Hmm.
the transition of not having it to having it to now having it in too many parts of your life. For you,
Fair.
this is something innately which you always had, which is the internet and this
Hmm.
whole cycle and almost loop with people around. Um, have you often sat and thought about just generally how that might have shaped your mind?
Yeah, a lot. If this wasn't there, I would be a completely different person. I used to be an introvert, and because of the internet and the help of it, I've learned to put myself out there more. And I think I've gotten back to
Hmm.
being an introvert in social situations, but I like it because I
Hmm.
think at this point, the introvertness comes from being safe in my own company rather than being alone. Like I like being alone and I like thinking and just being with myself because mostly all the time I'm surrounded by people. Even digitally, I'm always surrounded by people.
Hmm.
But I've learned to like just keep my phone away and just chill out, listen to some good music, some house music, and just do my own thing that I like to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like now it's a positive type of introvertness. It's not bad to be an introvert. It's actually most successful people I've seen have grown up like being an introvert or just happy people in general
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they learn to like love themselves so much.
Yeah. I think introverts are so misunderstood, right? I mean, this is a book I really like because I was trying to figure out. I know I'm not an introvert fully per se. I think I'm somewhere from what therapy has taught me is I'm that person who's somewhere in between. I fluctuate. Like I have periods in my day when I need to like
Hmm.
close off. Like I'm literally in these rooms like nobody come in. I lock the door. I'm like working on stuff or just doing stuff by myself. And there are times when I want a crowd
Yeah.
around. I really enjoy that energy. But I
Yeah.
know enough people who are far more on the introvert zone of things, and I feel that they're like you said, they're a lot more focused on things and kind of get into it. Don't get distracted as much. I love the book Quiet, and Quiet talks a lot about the power of introverts. Right? It's a beautiful book by
Hmm.
Susan Cain, and if you actually read that, she just goes so deep into just the mindset and the value of being an introvert and not to show it as being a negative,
Hmm.
because you always told, no, no, be out there, socialize with people. But you're an
Yeah.
introvert. That's not what you innately want. You want to be that person in the corner, right? Not really hanging out with
Hmm.
people. Um,
Hmm.
and and if you look at the whole introvert, just like the that mode of kind of functioning, um, and I think of your content, and I think it still shows. Like even when you have, I think a lot of your content isn't necessarily you out there saying stuff to camera. There's always the
Hmm.
music, there's always the action, but it's there is a certain, I I can't put a term to it, but when I watch it,
Hmm.
I kind of know that you're doing this. It's almost like the camera is just like this silent spectator to you just having fun.
Yeah.
Correct me if that's not the mindset, but that kind of comes across to me the more I've seen your content over the years.
Yeah. I tend to not really think about my content, because when I have, like when the numbers were low and everything, I used to
Mm,
always make myself in a position, okay, you have to do something, you have to do more, you have to do much more than you were doing. And
mm,
I've seen that it's always just worse than what I actually want, or something that I just don't want at all.
yeah.
So yeah, when I think of an idea, I don't actively think for an idea. I just,
Mm,
when I see something, and or when I think about something, um like my humor side just acts as a coping mechanism, and then it
yeah.
just works. So the comedy and the sadness just works together, and then content comes out of it, and then I just film it. And I have some reels where I work like 6 hours on, and I post it, and some that just take 10 seconds.
Mm,
There's no blueprint to it for me. I just love making it in
mm.
any way possible.
And and you spoke earlier on about the, you enjoy the creation, right? And you're studying film, right? You're doing a mixture of computer science and film, right? If I know right,
Yeah.
that's a mixture.
Yeah.
Um, is the thought to say, okay, the being the quintessential creator mode is not what you kind of want to move ahead with? Only you want to eventually kind of create stuff that's larger, create stuff that's cinema, series, whatever. But is that the eventual? Okay, this is almost like you're training yourself to get the instinct right, and then that's the eventual goal, not to just keep
For
expanding
sure.
the creator mode for life.
The creator mode is terrible for life, at least. It's actually
I agree.
terrible. It's a very I wouldn't say pretentious, but it's like there's not much you can do with it. And in India, at least, there's not that much opportunities or respect towards creators, where they
Mm,
get so many opportunities to do things.
mm,
But firstly, there are so many of us,
yeah.
and every day it just keeps increasing how many creators are there. So it's very hard to differentiate.
Mm,
And imagine struggling your entire life just constantly thinking how to please people. I do not want to do that.
yeah.
That's the last thing I want to do. Even though I'm secure by myself, I know like this for life is just
Mm,
no, I can, there is no chance I'm doing this. And you have like goals for life. You want to start a family, you want to keep doing things, and you want to grow as a person. And this
yeah.
just, like I've seen, it just keeps backtracking you. You're just going back to the same place, coming ahead, going back to the same place. And it's just not the world I want to live in. But I definitely want to create. I don't know what. I do
Mm,
music, I do content, I do graphic design. I don't know what, but I
mm,
want to create. I love creating. Definitely don't want to be told what to do. So
yeah.
a desk job would not be in the books at all.
Yeah.
And I don't want to tell people what to do. I just want to show them what I can do rather than that.
Yeah.
So let's see where life goes.
Let's talk about music, right? I find that to be truly interesting part of your entire creation. Um, I like to call it a creation
Hmm.
playground, because we all have playgrounds we like to play in as creators and what you want to create. Feel music super interesting. Like I'm a huge consumer of music. I've always, it's been my first love for years.
Hmm.
Never really tried to make it. I've always found it very intimidating,
Hmm.
to even consider that as an option. That ukulele has been in my add to cart for, I would say, a few years now. But
Yeah.
how, how do you look at creating music versus creating everything else that you do?
Music is just a whole different ball game. With content, you can't really you can in some ways appeal to their emotions or whatever, but music, like with the music and the lyrics aspect together, Like I've been like music has saved me so many times from like thoughts or whatever, and music has also uplifted me in so many ways.
Mm,
And it's just a beautiful medium to like connect with people, and that's what I want
mm,
to do. I'd say most people don't respect people who make content and music too,
mm,
because they're just doing it as an hobby. And
mm,
that's why when I try to get out or like try to do shows and everything, everyone puts me down. We don't take Instagram singers because
mm,
most of them do make music for the masses and just as a point of view.
mm,
But I don't I if I had to choose between music and content, I'd choose music because I
mm,
love the process of making it much more than I love making content, because it's just so interesting to bring sound and lyrics together. And
mm.
that whole process just, I never get bored of it. I tend to get bored of so many things. I've gotten bored of making content like at least once a week, and then I just stop because it's just really boring. And everything that I picked up since I was a child, I've tried, and then I got bored, and then I went on to the next thing. People
I
say
can
I'm
relate to that.
talented. Yeah, people say I'm talented or whatever, but I just said no. I just try so many things because there's not enough time to do it. But then I always get bored of it, so I move on to the next
Don't you
best
hate it
thing.
that people say that, but you're so talented about something in saying that you need to do more of that? Because I feel that is like the worst thing you should tell anyone who's young, or actually maybe even older as well. I mean, I can't say young
Yeah.
enough. Like I remember that. So I remember every single parent teacher meeting in school would be like, he's so talented, but
Hmm.
there will always be that but, right? I'm like, ah, that. And so when I
Yeah.
went for my first PTA meeting as a parent, years later, I
Hmm.
was waiting for the but. The
Yeah.
but never came. Like, I like this teacher. Why was this teacher not around when I was in school? But, um, and it's just that it's an additional pressure to say you can't just enjoy something for the sake of it. You need to
Hmm.
excel at everything, right? I mean, there's this lovely book called Beginners, and I'm forgetting the author's name, but he basically talks about the fact that not everything you want to try out in life needs to be something you're really good at. Like you can suck at
Hmm.
something, but you might just enjoy it for a brief period of time. You might just be
Yeah.
curious about it. Um,
Yeah.
Not everything has to be, oh, this is going to be like my passion in life, or this is going to be what I'm going to excel at. Like I played tennis for, I would say, sporadically for about 5 6 years of my childhood, because that's the only sport you would go for summer camp available in my town where I grew up. I sucked at my
Hmm.
backhand. I could only do a forehand, which means I would. It's a very one-dimensional play, right? You
Yeah.
always know as an opponent what to do to make me lose. Just like go
Yeah.
towards my backhand. That was literally the strategy,
If
right?
we ever play tennis, I know what to do.
Because my backhand takes it out of the court. There is no way it's even getting into the court, right?
Okay.
So, and I was like, but every year, like, oh, you have potential, you should practice your backhand. I'm like, but I enjoy playing it. I play it for fun. I like to go for those coaching classes in summer. I don't want to go back to it again. And I feel
Yeah.
that additional pressure of you need to be good at everything. You can't just like try stuff out and suck at it for fun. I feel it's something which is innately, I think, across the board, right? We could be a creator who just makes really like random content and you have fun. You don't care about the audience putting it out there. Or
Hmm.
you could be someone who's very into something but wants to dabble in other stuff. Uh, there is this pressure, and I feel the pressure is the right word, that you kind of feel, oh my God, if I'm doing something, I better be good at it.
Yeah.
And does that make you stop trying things if you want to try, or has that, but has that sporadically saying, okay, but I'm just going to do it because I enjoy it? You haven't sucked at anything that I know of, but I'm just going to ask you that.
I have sucked at many things. It's just I don't
What?
show it to people.
Let's take
I've not put it on.
on
I
record.
did uh, I did the tabla for 6 years, and I was just not good at it.
Hmm.
But it was my first medium into getting into music, and it was nice and fun. But that was
Hmm.
very interesting what you said. Like we don't people expect you to excel at something, and only then you can do it.
Yeah.
Like I remember hearing like this rapper once who said, "Why do people hate on people just for trying?"
Hmm.
Like people can try things, they don't have to be the
Yeah.
best at it. And that's what my mindset is ever since I was like young. Is just that I like to try things, I like to do things that I've never
Yeah.
done before, because I don't like the idea of just doing one thing for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
because that's boring. And
Yeah.
you don't have to excel at it, you don't have to be the best at it, because then there's so much pressure added on you for nothing by yourself and other people.
Yeah.
So whenever I try something, I just don't give a shit about what I think and what others think. I just do it because it's
Yeah.
fun. And then the process is so much more amazing and fun because I'm just doing it to do it. I'm not doing it for a certain goal, because people always say you should have a goal in life, you should have a
Mm.
goal while doing something,
Yeah.
and you have to choose what you have to have a goal with. You
Yeah.
shouldn't do it for everything, and mostly it's irrelevant what the goal is, because you just have to do it for fun. And if it works out, that's what the content thing is. I've never tried to gain more followers or to gain more traction, or to, I've never told my followers share my thing, tell do this, do that,
Mm.
so that my thing can increase, because if it's meant to happen, it'll happen.
Yeah.
And I've seen this with creators, they get viral very fast,
Yeah.
get a lot of people to watch
Yeah.
them, and then people realize that this is not what they like, and then they
Mm.
start unfollowing. And
Yeah.
I get like 1000 unfollows a day,
Mm.
but it doesn't get to my mind, because you're slowly, it takes time, but you're slowly collecting people who actually like you for what you
Yeah.
are. You're not, it's
Yeah.
not that one video or that one song. It's slowly building your entire, like your entire base. And that's my idea of it.
You know, you mentioned a while back about overthinking, right? So a while
Hmm.
back on the show, we had someone called Meredith Arthur on it, and she's written a book for overthinkers called "Get Out of My Head."
Hmm.
And she calls anybody who's an overthinker my people. So she said as soon as we first, and she and I just randomly spoke to each other on Twitter and became got her on the pod. And she's like, as soon as you messaged me, I knew you were one of my people. And I thought that was a nice like community vibe to overthinkers. Um,
Hmm.
and we went obviously deep into many things. One of the things he spoke about is that if you're an overthinker, your tendency to get anxiety is very high, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're thinking. Because most times when you're anxious, you're thinking, you're worrying about the future, right?
Hmm.
Or something that it might happen in that sense. You've spoken about anxiety as well quite a bit.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
how have you? I mean, what's your relationship with anxiety been like over the years, and how have you kind of worked with it?
Um, my relationship with anxiety has like changed so much, and has been a whole roller coaster over the years. At some points in life, it didn't get to me, and I used to just, I could just shut it off at any point I wanted and move on. But now I've seen that at this point in my life, whenever I get really happy,
Mm,
I also get extreme amounts of stress and sadness at like right after.
mm,
Like when did my first concert ever,
mm,
and it was my sister's wedding the same day. Everything was like the best day of my life. I was with my friends, and it was just amazing. But then after, I didn't even overthink it, and overcome like a whole wave of sadness just came over
mm,
me, and I started thinking about everything in my life for
mm,
no goddamn reason.
mm,
And then I'm fine. The morning I wake up, I'm like whole different thing, and I don't really care.
mm,
But I've learned to acknowledge my anxiety. I think that's a big part. Like people don't register the anxiety, that's why it just hits them randomly and it affects them so much. But I've come to a point where I can know when it's gonna come. Like I know when it's gonna like come to me and overcome me. So I've learned to balance it out much more, and it
mm,
doesn't affect me as much more, but still does affect me, because I think about a lot of things. I don't think about people. I just
mm,
think about situations, like um relationships or future or like the past. It's just, it gets to me, but I've
mm.
learned to like know when it's coming, so I'm much more prepared, as you would say.
You know, there are a few things which came to my mind when you're talking about that. That extreme happiness followed by just kind of that almost that drop that you
Yeah.
feel in emotion. And I've spent a
Hmm.
lot of time in the last couple of years really studying like happiness, anxiety, a few other things. I just generally felt it was part of my process of trying to figure out what is going on in my own head, trying to work with everything that happened in the past, kind of. And in my head, it's like, okay, I like to consume stuff around what I'm going through, and so I went deep on a
Yeah.
lot of these. And one of the interesting things I learned was the fact that your mind often, when it sees a surge in a certain feeling, it tries to regulate you back to
Hmm.
normal. But when it's regulating it,
Yeah.
it pushes you in the opposite direction. So what happens if you feel extreme happiness, it will
Yeah.
push it back. And but sometimes what you
Hmm.
don't realize is that because it's pushing back, it goes too far, and sometimes you
Hmm.
go into that and if you kind of think in your head from that thought, okay, why am I feeling down after feeling really high and happy?
Yeah.
If you tell yourself, no, one second, this is just my mind kind of bringing balance back, the the flow
Mhm.
towards the negative is a lot lesser. It's almost like
Mhm.
I go back to Meredith because she said this. She said it's like waves of emotion, right? You have, the wave kind of goes up and it subsides. If you
Yeah.
consider them, that when you're feeling that emotion is actually when the wave is actually going to start subsiding. It's actually not. It's not like
Mhm.
you're starting to feel sad. It's just that you're stopping to
Fair.
feel. Stop. Your happiness is stopping. So
Yeah.
if you think of it from that sense, it
Mhm.
and I thought that when she said that, I was like, oh my god, that's like, I think of every single time you feel really down the day after, like you feel really happy. I'm like, I wish I
Mhm.
just kind of thought of it in that sense,
Mhm.
rather than in the way you normally do, where you sort of been pulled back. But do you see yourself getting pulled towards the negative often enough in your head? And how do you kind of deal with that aspect? Because I know that some of your content also has dealt with it. You have spoken about things that you've been through. You have spoken about emotions that you're feeling, stuff that's happened to you. And you used it as a mechanism to say, at least, like, it's not about telling people, it's about me channeling what I'm feeling in a way and putting it out there. So it's almost like out of me. I don't care about what people are saying back. I mean, that's what I got whenever I've seen any of those pieces from you. Was that
Yeah.
how you looked at it as well?
Yeah, that's majorly what I looked at as. I had this entire phase in my life where um I used to think of the worst situation possible so I don't get affected by anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um like this was like a year or two ago,
Mm-hmm.
and my mind was entirely programmed in a way where I just thought of the worst,
Mm-hmm.
so that if if anything happens like less than that, it doesn't
Yeah.
affect me,
Yeah.
because I get so affected by that worst. And when that worst used to happen, it used to really affect me, but that's a different story. But then
Mm.
I moved out that entire phase because it's a really negative space to be in.
Yeah.
But then I guess my mind's just already programmed subconsciously to like think of the worst, and then it tries to go back to that instead of you said that it comes trying to come back to the place it was.
Mm.
My mind already knows the worst situation possible,
Mm.
so I guess it just keeps going till it
Going there.
reaches that worst
Yeah.
situation possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to learn to like not actually think of the worst like negative thing ever. But yeah, it's a process. It takes time.
It's
Trying to be more positive. You can't be happy all the time. So it's
it's
just a
interesting you said
process.
that, think of the worst, right? Because that's something which I use as a tool quite often. But for me, it's actually been a positive thing.
Hmm.
Like, I've always worry about things a lot, and I'm like, at least I have like
Hmm.
a worst case scenario mapped out. Okay, that's not that bad. Is often what's in my head. um
Yeah.
and so, and I think that's one thing which you all also don't realize, that is that oftentimes you're talking about how you deal with something versus how somebody else deals with something. For me, the worst case scenario has
Hmm.
actually been great, because I'm like, okay, this is the like when we start I often talk about how when we started our company, we had zero idea what we were doing. We said worst case scenario, we'll go look for a job. I mean, that's the worst in our head that could have happened. I mean, the worst would be that we would not be able to do anything. But I think somehow
Yeah.
there is a way to look at the worst when it's
Hmm.
veering you towards pulling you down, I guess. That's when it truly becomes negative. But and I've seen that for me. I mean, I've always said, okay, that doesn't seem, it's like mapping out the every
Hmm.
single disaster movie ever. Is like, those things are like, that's true worst case scenario. Like, I mean, what is that recent one
Yeah.
which I'm like, I have to watch? It's called Moonfall. Moon comes and crashes
Moonfall.
into the earth. I'm like, you saw it?
Really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked
I
it. I
want
saw it
I
on a
want to one
plane.
day talk to Roland Emmerich and say he has something with the world dying. Like, think about every single
Yeah.
movie he makes. Every single movie,
Worst
the
case
world has to
scenario.
die. He is the worst case scenario. Like, I'm like, for him,
He is. Yeah.
I think I'm sure, like, I've ever read an epitaph for Roland Emmerich. Like, the worst case scenario was his best case scenario. Like, that is
Yeah.
the only thing he's ever made.
Yeah. That is true.
Uh, you know, I want to circle back to friendship, right? One of the first things which we spoke about. You got onto YouTube to make friends, um, early
Hmm.
on, and you made some of your closest friends off YouTube.
Closest
Um,
friends. Yeah.
and how do you see that relationship evolving as you guys are now like in different parts of the world? Everything else is the fact that it started off online, even though I'm sure you guys also spend a lot of time together in person. Has it been easier to kind of graduate or just like evolve friendship when you kind of have also had that strong bond which is built through the digital pipeline? Because um and I want to dig into friendship a little bit more.
Yeah. Um, I think you didn't get it. I made YouTube to make friends in my school, not online.
Ah, see, my mistake.
Yeah, yeah. So I made
So you had,
I
so
made a
it's not like you
YouTube
didn't have
channel because
friends.
there was this. I had zero friends. No, I had
Hmm.
zero friends.
Hmm.
But there was this other guy in my grade who
Hmm.
had a YouTube channel, and
Yeah.
he had so many friends, used to get all the girls, and I was just like, okay, I want to be like that guy. Um, and it didn't work out because if you see my old videos, they're very weird, and if
Hmm.
you found that kid in school, you'd just be like, what the hell is this guy?
So
But
I've seen a
that's
lot
where
of
I
your
found
old
like my
videos because you
closest
keep
friend.
making them a part of your new videos. I've realized that oftentimes you'll pick something from an old video. I
Yeah.
don't know if those are the YouTube videos, but I know that I've seen some of those come up in your newer videos.
Yeah, but there are whole structured YouTube videos about a topic
Uh,
as I was small, which is really, really terrible. But that's also where I found my closest friend because
hmm.
she saw me in the weirdest and still, like, came up to me and said, you're damn funny and all. And
Yeah.
she's like my closest friend ever, like my sister at this point. But the relationships you make online, I see they can work out, but most of the time they don't
Hmm.
because we as creators, we put out a front of
Hmm.
ourselves that not many people can clench out to what we actually are. So when I
Hmm.
talk to someone online, I tend to know for a fact that it's not actually who they are.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
most of the times I'm right. It's very different how they actually are in person or when we talk more. Um, but I also value the friendships I make online.
Hmm.
Actually, like I actually make them the ones that actually work out a lot more
Hmm.
because then it's just such a new space to like you respect the person that they're being open to you and you find comfort in someone else on this platform of so many people who are not what they are.
Hmm.
Um and those are really nice. And I have like a few of them which I really love to like hang out with them or just talk to them in general.
I asked you that because often enough I've seen that even the term friendship has really evolved, right? When you think about it from
Hmm.
um you know I think back from like friends in school, college, etc. For me, where like I still like my closest friends are still those couple of people I've hung out with since college.
Yeah.
For us, the internet is almost a way for us to still be those guys in college, because
Hmm.
you literally have like a couple of groups when the only stuff you share are memes or like random shit you found on the internet, and you just go like, you want to be those random people who laugh at the
Yeah.
stupidest things even now when all of us are like around 40, crossing 40, getting towards 40. And I feel in many ways that for us it's the flip of saying, okay, this is what how we used to be together in college. We get to relive that randomly online. How do you look at the fact that do you see when you interact with a friend online and interact with a friend in person,
Hmm.
being equal, or is the in person still the prime way you would want to kind of interact with someone who's you consider a close friend?
In person is definitely the prime way I'd like to know person, because it's just so much more. And that's the thing with like I'd give you an example, online dating.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time it's a disappointment when you meet the person
Hmm.
because people know how they it's very easy to show a perception of yourself that you're not online. I'd say this for myself too, like when I speak to someone online,
Yeah.
I have not opened up as much, but I'm still making myself so much more interesting than I actually am.
Yeah.
um, and in meeting a person online face to face, you can't really do much. You just have to be yourself. You can't extravagantly show yourself,
You
or you
also
can't
feel like you
even
said a lot
utter.
online already. You have nothing more to say sometimes when you actually meet in person.
Yeah, for sure. I've had so many of those situations where you talk to someone so much and express so much about your life, and then you just meet like for dinner or anything, and you're just like, so how's the weather today? It's
Hmm.
like it's not me. It's really hard to
Oh,
transition from not seeing their face to actually
yeah.
seeing their face.
Yeah.
But yeah, I value meeting a person much more. That's why I don't try to actively reach out to other creators
Mm,
and say let's collab or whatever. I hate
mm.
that. I hate when people just meet to make content. It's
Yeah.
just so bad. I've done that before and it's just so fake and unnecessary. So when I actually meet someone, like coincidentally, I don't even try to meet them. Tend to see who are creators, tend to see that those are the much more closer relationships I have,
Hmm.
than just randomly talking online first.
You know, do you also see that kind of having almost like saying that's a um, almost a byproduct of you um, becoming famous? I think you went through a year where your numbers went from like what, a couple of some thousand or thousands in Instagram to like massively higher than that. Um, and you've spoken about the fact that you don't want to be famous, and
Mhm.
you said that. But do you see this as almost like a unfortunate byproduct of becoming famous, and then I always look at someone saying I need to balance this out because the more that happens, it
Mhm.
just makes it. I think a lot of the connections you make are transactional, and I've seen that a lot in
Yep.
times. A lot of them are just transactional. You know when you're talking to someone, and you know, and where it's becoming transactional, and you know when it's
Yep.
genuine. Um, was that one of the reasons why you say don't want to be famous, or were there more?
That's a good reason for not to be famous. But there are many more layers to it. Like I hate being recognized in public.
Yeah,
I don't like it that much.
yeah,
I appreciate it, and sometimes it's cool, but most of the time it's just someone coming into your personal space and just disrupting things and making things weird.
mm,
But yeah, that's one of the major points of that it's just transactional. Because I'd say that if I didn't have this verified tick or such followers, if I was just like a guy with 1,000 followers
mm,
and I made the same content I did, there'd be so many people who wouldn't have talked to me. And
mm,
I would say this for myself, like it's hard to talk to someone who isn't like at the same level as you or at least
mm,
closer to it.
mm,
And like creators keep like small creators like with 8,000 followers, they keep texting me, let's collaborate and everything. And you just can't do that anymore. Even
yeah,
and I only do that, I've learned to like only do that when I find their content really, really good. Like
mm,
I've collaborated or at least worked with many creators who have like not that many followers, like not
mm,
even 10,000, but their content is just so different and good, and I love it so much, that I start talking to them and I
mm,
just let them know that they're doing like just really, really good. But most of the thing is transactional. Even with like relationships online,
mm,
I have learned from experience not to talk to girls online from my Instagram, because most of them are doing it because of what you are and not who you are.
that's so true.
It's just, if I did not have these followers, I know for a fact that they wouldn't even know who I am. So I don't let it get to my head and I don't work it to my advantage. I know so many people with like a large following and everything that I can see them using it to their advantage and things, and that's just something I don't want to do, because I believe in like connections much more than um, products of things coming out with the help of your following.
And what you said is I think something that most people should kind of get right is that the hunger to get famous oftentimes
Mhm.
doesn't teach you that doesn't you don't actually realize why you're doing it. If you're just doing it for the
Yeah,
numbers, like I love the fact that beginning of this chat you said I'm doing it you know for you to be able to create, and that's your prime thing. You love creating, and that's the I mean that's the payoff. The payoff is not
yeah,
actually putting it online, getting comments, getting likes, getting followers. The payoff is to actually create the content. But I feel for a
yeah,
lot of people, because being a creator becomes this, oh my god, you can be famous, or you
yeah,
can get brand deals, or you can do this. At some point, it's not authentic in many levels, and because it's not authentic, you kind of stuck doing something which you don't necessarily enjoy, and that does
yeah.
show at some point. You can't do that in the long run. You can't do that for like 5, 10 years at max. You in a
Not
year
at
or
all.
two, you'll be like, oh my god, why am I doing this? This is tiring, and then it'll show because it's not authentic.
The thing with becoming famous online, the want for it, it's mixed with two things in the creator space, which are the worst things possible. It's mixed with validation and money.
Mm,
The constant urge to make more money with
yeah,
brands, and the constant thing to earn more validation, more and more and more. And they both terribly work hand in hand to just screw up with your mind, and you forget who you are also as a person, and you
Yeah.
start making things just to get to that point. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I have made sure ever since like I started getting traction, is that I do not want to chase money, and I
Mm.
do not want to chase validation, because
Mm.
those are the two biggest things I've seen people lose things over. Like the biggest YouTube creators I've seen that I used to watch as a child, as
Mm.
13, nobody knows where they are right now, because
Yeah.
I saw them, and that's why people left watching them. I saw them chasing the bag. That's what they call it, chasing
Yeah.
the money, or chasing just doing things that they didn't used to do, but they're
Mm.
doing it just to get more people, more of the generic crowd who don't really care about you.
Yeah.
And that's the entire thing that I avoided doing, because I do not want a generic crowd that just comments and then leaves to go to the other creator. I want someone who connects with me as a in a level that they do not connect with any other person.
You know, I someone asked me that what should you not become when you become a creator? I said don't become human clickbait, right? I feel that's the problem. The
Yeah.
tendency to become human clickbait is something that pushes you to not be yourself, and after a
Hmm.
point you won't even remember who you were. Like, there is an innate person inside you which you forget. Oh, this is the data, this is the
Yeah.
algorithm. I've fallen into that trap too many times, to ever say that I have been pure and never gone there. It's very natural to go there.
Hmm.
The platforms are built for that,
For
but
sure.
you got to keep kind of going back to saying, okay, why did I start doing this in the first place?
Hmm.
And once, if you kind of keep going back to that, and if that is true, then you kind of stick to it. And is that why you don't do as many brand collabs, or you don't do any brand collabs? You do some.
I haven't done. There was a period where I haven't done one in I think 8 months,
Hmm.
because we're also learning, and like you can't blame the brands. They have to transition from TV mass
Yeah.
brands ads to a very short form personal thing. So most of their scripts or the things that they send are very, you would see them on TV, you would
Hmm.
hate it to be on your feed.
Yeah.
And imagine my followers, that's what I think, imagine my audience seeing me do something so fabricated and not me. I just
Veering
don't like
towards
the
cringe.
idea of that at all, because most of the brand cringe, not
Yeah.
even cringe, like TV shows are cringe. TV ads, most of them
Yeah.
are cringe,
Yeah.
but they work because
Yeah.
it's on TV and it's in the middle of something you're watching
Hmm.
consistently.
Hmm.
But Instagram is just so much different content, and then suddenly I see an ad for whatever face cream, and I'm just like, no, not interested. So if I personally don't like it, I
Hmm.
don't want my followers to go through it.
Yeah.
So I only pick up on brands which there are very small amount of that actually like work with the creator to
Hmm.
make make a ad or make something curated to only them.
Yeah.
Like most of the brands send out their product to 1000 creators and expect them to make the same thing,
Hmm.
and so I just constantly see on my feed the same ad with different faces,
Yeah.
and it's just something
Those are
that
the worst.
I don't want.
And
But yeah.
speaking as an advertising person, that is actually the worst thing you can do as a brand, right? Is that
Yeah.
you would rather just get a billboard. You basically, yeah, you're just doing billboard. But what you can actually get by saying one thing, I'll meet you halfway. These are things I
Hmm.
can't change about what my brand needs, but I'm coming to you because you create something that is innately interesting for an audience. Just do it your way. Just
Yeah.
make sure you include these things in there. I think that's always been the best way to do it, right? I mean, that's what brands should do. But yeah, the tendency to veer
Yeah.
towards, it's gotten better though. Also because I've been in the
It's gotten
TV
better.
side for long enough. So I worked in TV
Hmm.
first, then went to digital. Now this. So um, for me, it's like if I go back to the old days, this is like light years ahead. But can always get better. And I feel that the more comfortable you make someone who's creating content feel, the better your content will be if you are a brand kind of collabing. I also
For
asked
sure.
you, I also asked you that question because I wanted to kind of figure out one specific thing, right? Is that there are things that motivate us to do what we do. And very early on, you spoke about your motivation is to kind of move towards creating art, creating cinema, movies. Everything. Is there a specific kind that you gravitate towards? in terms of what you want to kind of create, or are you still saying, oh, there's a bunch of things I want to kind of create? I'm not putting myself even into like one or two or five boxes. I mean, there are too many boxes around.
There is not a specific thing, but I know I want to make something that's or some form of art that's not prevalently there in India yet. I
Mm.
want to make what type of music or type of movies that are not seen as much in India yet, because most of the films right now or the music right now is, if you close your eyes and think of the tempos or whatever, they're
Yeah.
mostly the same. The
Yeah.
sad songs or the pumpy songs are mostly the same, and the
Yeah. Yeah.
movies are mostly ridiculous with a, I don't know what kind of storyline.
What's happening?
Um,
We have no
but
idea.
that's the thing. But film has adapted to it. Like there are creators like Anurag Kashyap and all that brought
Mm.
a different type of Indian cinema, and people are learning to like it.
Yeah.
um but that's the thing with content too. We've It's just been 2 years, and since reels came into India and since TikTok got banned, so the entire switch of short form content, like every app I know now has short form content.
Yeah.
Snapchat, YouTube, all apps have short form content. So it's just a new thing to be discovered in India.
Mm.
And it's not me trying to do things differently than others, it's just me trying to do something new,
Mm.
something that's not seen before in any art that I make. So that's my motivation, that I want to make something new, bring something new to the table.
How was the experience of putting out your own music out there? I mean, one is to create, put it out there, but I'm guessing that putting it out there at that point of time, was that a different feeling from how you felt when?
At that phase I was in, yeah, at that phase I was in my don't give a shit phase. And one day I was
It's
really
phase.
really bored in lockdown. I was really really bored in
Yeah.
lockdown, like on a Sunday night. And I was just like, it'd be really cool to have a song on streaming platforms.
Mm.
That was my mindset. Like
Mm.
it'd be really cool to show people that, hey, I have a song
Yeah.
on Spotify or on Apple Music. And I had already been writing lyrics a lot,
Mm.
and I didn't really know much about making music. So that
Mm.
entire night, I just sat and researched on how to make music like the easiest way possible.
Mm.
And my first song is the song I hate the most because I could do so much more with it, and I
Mm.
only put it out because the fact I wanted to put it on a streaming platform. And it's
Mm.
ironic how that's my most well-known songs, but still,
Yeah.
um, I was just really bored. And but when I put it out, and I just loved it. I just
Mm.
loved the process of making it and putting it out, just like I liked the process of making content. And I found a new passion to do. And when I find a passion, and I know it's a passion for sure, I always commit the most to it and work the hardest to make it more and more perfect. I'm a really big perfectionist.
Mm.
That's why I stopped making YouTube videos, because when I used to edit, I can't let anyone else
Mm.
do my work. That's also a problem with me. Like I
Yeah.
hate the idea of someone else doing my work. So when I used to edit for like 10 hours at a night and get so tired, and then just put it out, because long form content, I want to make it like so perfect ever since I
Yeah.
was a child, that it just plays on my mind, that entire thing. But yeah, that's my motivation, to make things perfect and to do something new.
But do you feel that being trying to make things perfect also affects you some, like, have you ever thought about, okay, not everything has to be perfect, or is that something which you believe that will give you the most amount of satisfaction?
You have to choose what you want to make perfect. I have
Mm.
noticed that most of the time, your first thought is your best thought. If you overthink it, overthinking also comes into play. If you overthinking it, try to make it better and better and better and better, it's just gonna be something. It's not just like with content, with music, with art, anything.
Yeah.
Like I've started to draw on apps, and I make a really nice thing, and then I think, okay, I've got to put more in it. I have to put more colors and everything. And it just becomes really ugly at the end of it. So it's just, you have to learn what to choose to make perfect.
Mm.
With editing, it's really different, because I want to make it look good. I want it to have a nice flow, like a perfect flow, because when you watch something, there shouldn't be a moment where you get bored, for me,
Yeah.
of watching it. So if you see my editing journey over my YouTube videos, it's gotten more like engaging, much more fast paced and everything, because I've
Mm.
learned from other creators and from my own experience what to do. But with music, you shouldn't do that, because you have an idea in your head that you've been thinking about for a long time. When you put it down, when you make a song, you shouldn't think more. It should always be the first idea ever. Even with art, it's like if you made something and you had it in your mind, it should always be the first idea that you ever had, because your first idea is mostly the best. And you shouldn't tell other people
Mm.
how to dictate your art. That's one thing I've learned. With music, if I make something and I send it like to my friends or anything and they have negative reviews, music is the most diverse thing possible. Like you
Yeah.
may listen to like a whole different genre of music, and I love a whole different genre of music. So your opinion, like I make suppose hip hop music and you love jazz and
Mm.
you're advising me about hip hop music, nope, not
Yeah.
gonna
Not
work,
gonna work.
because I have listened so much more than you have. So you should never listen to other people when it comes to your art, even with
Yeah.
content, because that's also so diverse.
Yeah. How do you take a pause? What is your way of taking a pause in your life?
I used to, whenever I made any form of expression, I used to just put it out there and like just not look at it for weeks and
Mm.
just move on to the next thing.
Mm.
But I've learned to like not do that, because I went to a point of not giving a shit so much that it
Mm.
just I had zero motivation to actually doing anything.
Mm.
So when I post something, I view it on my own. I keep watching it. Like at least whenever I post a reel, I watch it like at 50 times again and again until I get bored of it, and then I'm like, cool, this is all
Mm.
right. But if at the 49th time I find it lame, I will delete it for sure. That's how it works. Um, that's how it works, because I have to love it. I have to like actually love it for in order to it be out there for other people to watch. Um, but taking a pause, I I have friends who post consistently every day,
Mm.
and they've made it a point to do that, and they've grown a lot, and I appreciate that. But I'm a person who loves to like just take my space and just not do things like consistently again and
Mm.
again. People say consistency is key. It is key to becoming successful really fast.
Yeah.
But if you see with my YouTube channel, I've not posted in I think 5 months,
Mm.
but I've done that previously before, like multiple times. So my subscribers know that okay, this guy is fine. Like we don't need to unfollow him. He's just gonna post whenever he wants. They've learned to do that over the
Yeah.
past 7 years. Um, but imagine if I was posting every day, daily vlogs, and then
Mm.
suddenly I just stop. Then people are obviously not going to like that. So just taking a pause has just always been my thing. Even with music, I don't try to actively work towards making an album or like just getting more and more out there to get
Yeah.
more validation and money. As I said before, I've just learned to be happy with myself and only make it when it comes to me, not make it come to me. You know? Yeah.
Thanks so much for doing this, Dev. This has been awesome, man. I always like to leave a few things which saying, okay, we always do a part two or a part three, and I feel there's lots more things to discuss. But thank you so much for doing this,
Yeah.
and I do think I need to make a point at some level to maybe meet you in person, not because it
Yeah.
is transaction, because I think it's we've always had interesting conversations, and I want to
Yeah.
finally do one where it's not recorded, just generally have
Yeah.
a chat.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
till that one, thanks, Tan, for doing this, and keep I, this is something which I learned from a very close friend of mine, who's saying that you do you, and I think that's been the best thing to kind of observe how you do stuff. Saying it's like it's,
Yeah.
uh, it's not as grammatically correct as most things you have to say, but I'm saying you do you. I think is generally what I think of when I
Yeah.
think about how you're going to create content, and keep doing what you're doing, man. It's been amazing to see your journey, and can't wait to see what you create going ahead.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me here.
I hope my chat with Dave gave you as much value as I got from speaking to him. And if you don't follow him yet, you must follow him on Instagram and on YouTube. Although, like he said, he hasn't created content on YouTube for a while, but it will come back at some point of time. And lots more interesting content like this coming on this channel. So make sure you hit subscribe, smash that bell icon. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, you should do that at the rate Varun Duggi. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care and make sure you keep taking a pause in your life.